So that was attention. Now let's look at the quality of balance. Emotional balance really helps kids navigate the ups and downs of daily life. And so that's what we're going to be working with in this section, using these life skills, focusing and seeing. One of the favorite definitions or descriptions I have of mindfulness is the idea of mindfulness as a mirror. It's a mirror of what's happening now. So that mirror accurately reflects what's happening in our inner and outer worlds, and we see what's happening without an additional layer of thoughts, emotions, and stories that can blur the reflection. So we have a couple of stances of attention that we teach kids about. One is the spotlight, which is a focused attention, focusing on one thing and ignoring distractions. And the other is the floodlight of attention. It's a wider, more open stance of attention that includes absolutely everything in our experience. When we're mindful, we use both the floodlight and the spotlight stances of attention. So we become more familiar with thoughts and emotions and opinions and reactions and sensations, not because we want to change them, not because we want to get rid of them, not because we want to embrace some of them and push some of them aside, but so that we become comfortable with the full range of activity in our minds and so that we better understand it. When we see our minds more clearly and we better understand our minds, then we can next better see and understand other people's minds and their hearts and their bodies, their thoughts, emotions, reactions, opinions too. So again, it starts with inner work, inner understanding, inner familiarization to help us better understand other people and the world around us. So what do we do? Big feelings, busy minds, they are going to come up during meditation. And what do we do then? When we're mindful, we become more familiar with these things, but some of them may come up and sometimes they may be difficult to navigate and they may be overwhelming. So when that happens, we do something that you might not exactly expect. One of the things we forget is that thoughts generate more thoughts. And there was a social psychologist named Dan Wagner who did a social experiment that really helped us understand what that looks like. So I'd like you to practice that social experiment with me for a second. And I'd like you for one moment or two, try not to think about a pink elephant. What happens when you try not to think about a pink elephant? Can you push the idea of a pink elephant away? Can you get rid of the idea of a pink elephant? More often than not, what happens is the more you try not to think about a pink elephant, the more a pink elephant comes to mind. So this idea that what we resist tends to persist is a very, very important and useful idea in all of mindfulness meditation. And it starts with this idea that when we're practicing, we're not trying to get rid of thoughts. We're not trying to get rid of emotions. We're not trying to get rid of thinking about pink elephants. We just develop a wide, spacious, open stance of attention with plenty of room for all of it. So we let it all come, we let it all go, and we do our best not to engage with these thoughts that come to mind. So when we become more mindful, when we become more familiar with our thoughts, then we can see our minds more clearly. But again, like I said, even with these skills, even with this understanding, sometimes big and overwhelming emotions come to mind. So when that happens, we give kids strategies to use if they start feeling overwhelmed by big feelings. Here are a few of them right now. If your mind is busy and it's hard to relax, we encourage you to sit and focus and silently say in when you breathe in and out when you breathe out. It's that simple. In, or out. Another one, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, and this works whether you're practicing mindfulness or meditation, or just in the middle of a stressful situation at home or at work or at school, just breathe in for 4, hold your breath for as long as it's comfortable, and then breathe out for 8. The breathing in for 4, holding the extended out breath, has a way of settling your nervous system, slowing your heartbeat, and helping you to feel more grounded. Another great thing to do when you're feeling that strong emotions are bubbling up or your mind is very busy is just to move. You can get up and move from your chair, but you can also move in your chair, just silently swaying back and forth. You can shake and shake out nervous energy. You can rub your hands like this. Meditation and mindfulness does not need to be all sitting still, and that's really important when we're working with kids. So moving and shaking and dancing, those are other ways to manage strong emotions in busy minds when they bubble up. Walking is a really great way to manage strong emotions in busy minds. You can just take whatever practice you're doing and do it in connection with a walk. And then, of course, if these strong emotions come up and it's tough to manage them, even with these strategies we've given you, take a break, whether it's a short break of just a second or two, open your eyes if your eyes are closed, or if it's a longer break where you take a break and come back the next day. All of that is fine. Remember early on, I told you that more and more I'm seeing how patience might be the most critical universal theme for us to develop and embrace, period, but especially when we're working with kids and families. Well, you can take a break and come back tomorrow. There's plenty of time to become more familiar with our minds and bodies. So if you're facilitating classes, I want you to know a couple of these basic rules to handle strong emotions that come up in mindfulness class. One, keep your eyes open when leading a reflective practice so that you can see what's happening with the people in your group. If somebody, a child or an adult, seems particularly restless or overwhelmed, it's okay, just skillfully end the practice. Acknowledge feelings that come up without drawing too much attention to them. When appropriate, ask for group support. How many of you have felt something the same or similar? Show your hands. Contain the discussion. A tender topic can quite quickly be the subject of playground conversation or lunchroom conversation. So have a referral system in place, a supervisor or a peer support. So if something does come up in a group you're facilitating, you're not quite sure about how to handle, that you can talk to others and then always come back to your group and see if there's something else that you want to do to provide support and understanding. So a little bit more on the quality of balance and the life skills now of seeing and reframing. One of the pieces of the puzzle, the nervous system puzzle in this work, is the idea of the negativity bias. And our brains are wired for survival. And one way that we're wired for survival is to focus more on experiences that feel threatening and dangerous than those that feel positive and uplifting. So this is called the negativity bias, and it was really essential to our ancestors' survival. Unfortunately, right now, it's not as helpful often because often what happens, we don't have the same physical threats to our survival, but still we tend to focus more on the difficulty, more on the challenges than the positive or the good that's happening in our life. So it's easy to get caught in a mental loop of thinking about our problems, especially during hard times. But if we learn to interrupt that mental loop, not pretend the problems don't exist, not ignore or deny the problems, but just interrupt the loop of thinking about them all the time and take a moment to see the beautiful flower in the yard and appreciate it, or feel the sun on your face or the wind, or enjoy your comfortable bed or some time with friends or family. That helps us break the mental loop of thinking about the difficulties and make room for gratitude and appreciation to emerge naturally. So appreciation is a key part of this work. And when challenging circumstances show up, it's so easy to focus on what's going wrong and not on what's going right. So when we take more time to focus on what we're thankful for, we have studies now that show that that type of appreciation helps us become more resilient when life is hard. It helps us to maintain our optimism. It increases our feelings of happiness. It strengthens our immune system, and it promotes feelings of forgiveness and kindness to others. So surprisingly, it doesn't take a lot of time to experience these benefits, which is why we really encourage you in your work with kids and your work on your own to take in some time to just soak in the good.